Hey everybody, welcome back. This video is all about how to use the US Constitution in your argument essay like a pro, so let's do it. Alright, so at this point, hopefully you're all starting to feel somewhat comfortable with the argument essay. Now we should know that the first piece of evidence has to come from one of your required documents. Typically, the AP exam will choose 3 of those required documents and make you use one of them for that first piece of evidence. Now, there are 9 required documents in total. And for the most part, they each have a relatively narrow use, so it's pretty easy to figure out when to use a certain document. Checks and balances? Boom! Federalist 51. Arguments against a stronger central government? Brutus number 1. And so it goes. But the US Constitution can feel overwhelming. I mean, think about it. It's setting up the rules for our entire US government. There's a lot to it. But that's actually going to be a really good thing for you because that means it's super versatile. There are a ton of different ways for you to accurately use the Constitution as evidence. For a lot of students, the toughest thing in the argument essay is coming up with that second piece of evidence. But I'm here to suggest that the Constitution, because it's so varied and has so many different topics it touches on, it can almost always work as a second piece of evidence. Now obviously, sometimes you might already have your second piece of evidence in mind from a different document or a Supreme Court case, and that's great. But what I'm suggesting is that we can have the Constitution in our back pocket, knowing that it's there for us just in case. It's our safety net for that second piece of evidence. Okay, so let's start going through different ways we can use the Constitution in the argument essay. So we can use it for really broad, big ideas like the fact that the Constitution created a republic, a form of government in which people vote for representatives. Or that it established a limited government that only had certain powers. Or that it created a federal system in which state governments and federal governments share power, they're each sovereign in certain areas, and they overlap in others. If the prompt has anything to do with branches of the government or separation of powers, you're golden. Checks and balances? Yeah, we got that too. So after you discuss Federalist 51, just stroll on over to the Constitution for your second piece of evidence, talk about the power that the president has to veto legislation, or the president can nominate federal judges, Senate confirmation power, or impeachment. Those are all specifically mentioned in the Constitution. One tip though, don't use judicial review. Save that for Federalist number 78. If the prompt deals with Congress, well, you have a lot to choose from. Article 1, Section 8 deals with the powers of Congress, including some biggies like the power to tax, to declare war, to raise an army, to regulate interstate commerce. The Commerce Clause is a big one because we know it's been interpreted to give Congress a lot of power to regulate anything affecting interstate commerce. And then there's the Necessary and Proper Clause, which allows Congress to make laws on things that aren't directly stated in the Constitution, as long as they're necessary and proper to help them to carry out those express powers that they do have. If the prompt is about the president, you can draw on Article 2, either arguing about how the president was empowered, like being given the commander-in-chief authority, or how there are relatively few express powers the president has. So depending on whether you're arguing about a stronger or weaker president, you can go either way using Article 2. You can also write about the Electoral College and how it serves as a barrier between the people and the election of the president. Article 3 is the judicial branch, but really all you can get from this is life tenure, which you could then tie to judicial independence. Article 4 can be used about federalism, but I really wouldn't expect you to use this one. Typically, the AP exam will focus on states and federal government interaction, whereas Article 4 is mostly about how states have to act regarding other states. Article 5 is the amendment process, and that provides a great example of federalism because it requires 2/3 of Congress to propose the amendment and then 3/4 of the states to ratify, so you can use that for federalism. Article 6 has another biggie, and that's the Supremacy Clause. This states that whenever a federal law and a state law come into conflict, the federal law is superior. And the same thing is true of the Constitution compared to a federal law. The Constitution is always superior. And then you have the Bill of Rights and other amendments as well. There's a ton of different ways for you to use the Constitution as evidence in your argument essay. Oh, by the way, sometimes the AP exam will say original Constitution instead of just Constitution. What that means is no amendments allowed. Amendments came after. They were changes to the Constitution, right? So you can't use that if it says original Constitution. And just one other thing, it doesn't mean the Articles of Confederation. If they want you to write about the Articles, they will call it the Articles of Confederation. If it says the original Constitution, it means just these 7 articles that we've discussed. Well, we discussed 6 of them. The 7th is just the ratification process, and I can't imagine you really using that as evidence. So remember, if you can't think of a second piece of evidence and you're starting to panic, remember the Constitution. Relax, you got this. So until next time, this has been a La Money production. Thanks so much for watching this video and for supporting my channel. Do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hey, let me know if I should do some live streams between now and the AP exam. Let me know in the comments below what you think. See you guys next time.